Welcome to Tech Society, a podcast about all the facets of technology and society. Twice a week, we deliver in-depth analysis from a technological perspective, giving you our take on things and interviewing people that are doing important things. Now, here's your hosts, Alex Dunmo and John Newen.
And before we begin this episode, just quickly, is it time for your business to evolve? Yes, it is. So come see Ninja Software, njs.dev. Alright, let's get into the episode. You're listening to episode 76 with Dr. Paola Magni, forensic scientist, deputy dean and director of script at Murdoch University, Singapore, and winner of Business News 40 Under 40, and Jeffory Asselin, filmmaker at Murdoch University, known for several film productions such as Pinch, 2015, and Mr. Nobody in 2009. They're developing a revolutionary blended education product focused on forensic scientists, especially in areas that Dr. Paola Magni is a specialist in, codenamed Beetle CSI. By combining VR and traditional forensic education, this product will teach students how to handle time-sensitive and high-stress, chaotic environments involved in crime scene investigation. In this episode, we'll cover the importance of blended learning in university education, what the future looks like for VR, and how we can implement it in the workforce and education, saving millions of dollars a year, and the potential for virtual learning to actually be far superior to current methods. Alright, now let's get into it.
So can you please introduce yourselves, starting with Jeff, and who you are and what you do and what you stand for?
Yeah, g'day, I'm Jeffory Asselin. I'm a multimedia producer at Murdoch University. I run an innovation studio there that develops mainly pedagogical, educational media that's to support teaching and blended learning for academics.
Fantastic. Paola?
Hello, so my name is Paola Magni. I was born and raised in Italy, and then I studied a little bit everywhere, from Italy to different parts of Europe, America, Australia, and even remote Kazakhstan. And because, crimes can come in any shapes and any forms and anywhere in the world. So it's good to have a little bit of background about different countries, different laws, different type of criminals and crimes. And then I moved to Australia a few years ago, and I took a position as senior lecturer in forensic science at Murdoch University, where my role is between research and teaching. I research in the field of biology, and especially on little creatures that can be found at the crime scene or inside or outside of the victim or the suspect, to kind of remake the story, backtrack what happens and who are the people involved when things happen, and all of these little particulars that make the story. And in terms of teaching, well, I teach normal courses, but yes, I'm very, very interested in the blended learning and in the use of new technologies, not just for research, but also for teaching and learning, because, well, we are dealing with a new generation of students, and they want to be inspired by the teacher and the way the teacher teaches. And books are kind of updated, unfortunately.
So I guess you're both here today because you're working on something really cool together. What's happening? What are you doing?
Well, we call ourselves partners in crime.
I like that. Yep.
Because, yes, we work together in a project in virtual reality, that is the world of Jeff, but in crime scene investigation training, that is my field. So this is the reason why we are partners, and partners in not making crimes, but teach about how to study and research in crime scene investigation.
So what's involved, Jeff? What's virtual reality's part in all this kind of stuff?
Well, I'll probably start and tell the story of how the project came about. And my particular studio, basically, we run like a skunk works. We're R&Ding. We're always looking for ways to innovate teaching and learning, knowing that our younger students that are coming through, of course, their attention spans are getting shorter. They're used to competing with all of the content that's out there with social media. So basically, I was always looking for an excuse to get into some sort of game engine type gamification. Now, universities have been sprouting this word gamification for years. None of them actually ever do it. I don't know
that's true.
of too many. And of course, you know, we have a multimedia school and the students are making their stuff, but we've never really applied true gamification to teaching and learning. So I was kind of biting at the bit for a couple of years, just trying to figure out how we could get some VR projects done, or even just simple game projects. And then, of course, Paola, I've known Paola for about a year. We've been knocking around the uni, and I ran into I think I filmed you doing some presentations, and I think innovative people attract innovative people. No matter where you are, you seem to find each other. You do, and especially with a university. Universities are a really weird thing because no one's pushing you to do this stuff. And whether you're an academic or you're a professional staff member, which I am, you've got to find opportunity to do it, and you have to kind of be strategic and look at where is the university going, how can we tap their strategic plans and ride on that and try and bring these projects to the forefront. Anyway, Paola came through the door one day and she wanted to do a 360 video of a crime scene and have hotspots and all of this sort of, what I would say is a bit old school. Like, you know, I remember we were doing QuickTime surround, 360 videos back in the late 90s. So, you know, it's really not new technology, but the tools are getting better and better.
Yeah.
So I proposed to Paola when she came through. I said, hey, why don't we put this through as a Unity project? We'll do it on a game engine, and we'll, you know, I've got some ideas how we can make this really, really cool and make it something that can last for a long time and something that we can build on over the years and years, because that's the great thing about, you know, game engines and those, you know, gaming projects is it takes years to build these things on, and I felt that was a good opportunity, and that's kind of where this project spawned.
Yeah, and then we were lucky because around the time of this conversation, the university was advertising for a very small internal grant. And so we said, well, let's take the chance and let's put together this idea and submit to the hierarchy, to the vice chancellor, was the small steps of innovation of the vice chancellor, so directly from her. And we were one of the lucky winners of this fund. And that was renewed a couple of years later with a little bit more funds because the first step was very, very successful. So for my side is when I was studying in America, I was studying at the School of FBI in Knoxville, Tennessee, where they have the body farm, the anthropology research facility, the place where human bodies are placed in an environment and people study the composition processes, or the FBI go there and do this human remain recovery course. So I was working with them, and it was an incredible week working with them, working with the best people in the world in human recovery. And I mean, the limitation of this kind of training is that you have only that week, and you are divided in teams, and you have only your team groups. You have a job to do. There can be the sketcher or the photographer or the person that digs the body, the person that recovers the body. They assign you a scenario that is your scenario, not another scenario. So at the end of the week, you will have a great experience, but just one very limited experience. So I was working on a body that was hanging, but I didn't work on the body that was buried in the ground. So I had that experience and not that one. It's a very expensive setup.
It sounds
not
expensive.
many people can go. And we are providing similar things here to our students. But again, it's a very expensive exercise. And the students can do that only once and only in one role.
We're talking about real bodies, right?
Not in Australia, not in Western Australia.
Okay,
we have a sort of a body farm in Sydney, but we don't have one in Australia. In Western Australia, we use normally pigs or puppets, mannequins.
This is a world that I have no idea about, so it's very interesting.
But you can imagine, like, if you want to become a policeman or a forensic policeman, you will be exposed to any kind of crime scene. So you had to be prepared to any role in the same team. So having something that we can make up from scratch in a virtual world means that we have infinity possibilities of scenarios, and the students have infinity possibility of repeating, changing their role. And if we move the body from the lounge to the bathroom, adding one body, flip the body in another position, changing the knife with a gun or with a poison, you have a completely different story.
So is this Clue in VR?
It's Pluto, yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, it's like, you know, and I think about all the simulators, being a bit of a game nerd myself and have been for a long time through my whole career. I love simulators, all sorts, whether it's flight sim, you know, any, you know, cooking sims, CEO sims, any of that stuff.
So now I'm thinking Detroit Become Human, the game where it is a crime investigation and you can see the simulations of what could have happened. Is it something like that we're achieving?
Like massive decision trees.
Well, we had to look at what the outcomes we wanted first.
Of course,
and of course, I always go into these projects massive and work out how we can scale it back. And the reason why I go in massive, because I understand the retail market as well. So we have to come up with ideas of how we can be appealing to some capital funders, right? And being involved in the pre-alpha sort of game community and having backed tons of pre-alpha games myself, I saw potential in this is not only having a specific educational tool, which are very expensive in the educational world. So, for example, nursing school have simulators. They have dolls, very expensive dolls that they prod and poke and stick things in, and they can monitor these and set up these scenarios, and they're really expensive. And the software that's behind that, they're paying massive, you know, they're paying big dollars every year. It's subscription based, so it's not just you pay one off. So I saw potential not only in the university world, but also you could make a version of this for the retail world and sell it on Steam or whatever.
Yeah.
So the idea, the kind of structural idea and the technical plan that we have for this is that we can set up a scenario. And the beautiful thing about the gaming gamification and the gaming side of it is it's limitless, really. We can also randomize it so the student can't say to his mate, oh yeah, the body's under here and the knife's on the thing. We can change that up. Not just that, but there's going to be an assessment function built into this. So the idea was to have the actual crime scene in VR, and then the students could go back to their desks at any time or their computers, and in 2D they can go into the,
and still play the
office and correlate all the data that they've collected. Then they could take it to a lab in 2D and do these tests. So, you know, this is big picture stuff down the track. And also there would be an area for the academic who's gathering all of their behaviours.
I guess it makes monetary sense as well, right? Because so much money must be spent doing all this kind of training, not just learning, but training in the industry as well, right, Paula? So
absolutely, yeah. Just imagine that a full-size pig costs like $150, and we normally have like 7-8 groups of students working on every single piece. So every experience in mock crime scene costs us important money, and you set up the day XYZ 6 months prior to the day, and then the day is raining. And you cannot do it. That can be a huge
doesn't roll
problem.
up. You get students can't
or
make
if the student is sick for whatever reason. And what about a student that lives in a remote area? We have also the possibility to target a group of students that for whatever reason are not on campus because they COVID situation was one of the big hit for us because, well, in this situation, no one can come on campus, no one can do laboratory work, mock scene, and things like that. So our opportunity for the students was a gold opportunity because otherwise they will not have the opportunity to learn. So it opens doors and opportunities and training, learning, assessment. So it's great for everyone.
Have you created any famous crime scenes, like recreated?
No, we've basically just come out of kind of early prototype, just one scene. So we're very, very early stages.
Are you building tools to like quickly put together crime scenes?
Well, right now, basically we've got prototypes that we're using just to get out there and try and get finance, get the project financed.
What's the reaction like been so far?
The university used that for the town hall. Is using a lot for presentation of what forensic science does at Murdoch University. We had some TV crews coming over and trying and had documentary of what we do.
I'm just imagining like recreating all the famous serial killer crime scenes and just getting all the murder investigation podcast craze is massive right now. I know so many people who just listen to murder stories every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's massive. Yeah. So if you can be the investigator that,
Well, not to mention you could build an element in there to actually recreate real crime scenes.
That's what I mean. Like, recreate the serial killer crime scenes
on current investigations for the police. The police could tap.
And there's enough documentation, right? Like it's all documented. And what I'd be interested in is like maybe like you have a scene, and then there's that over time you visit the scene many times, and some sort of time scrubber, or I'm guessing that's how it usually happens when you come back to the site, have a look, or is it something that just is static and you just kind of comb through the whole thing in one go?
You can't do that again, because every time you go into the crime scene, you change things. You take things away. Just the fact that you modify whatever, the switch on, switch off of the lights, or you open the windows because sometimes the corpse doesn't it's not very perfumed, let's say that. Things change, and the decomposition process continues if you have a dead body. So things can happen only once. So you have one shot only to do the right thing. So it's very important to get things straight the first time, because yes, you can come back anytime, but
it will change.
Things will change, and at some point you will not have the crime scene do not cross anymore. And especially if it's an external environment situation, you have whatever weather situation that can affect the body or the crime scene itself. I remember there was a big case a few years ago in Perth in which a bomb blasted. And when you go for a crime scene investigation that is so large, like a bomb explosion, you have to consider to start from the core of the bomb explosion and going further and further. But it's a big crime scene. And when you go for something like that, the first thing that you have to do is to check the weather station.
Oh, yeah.
And the weather station was saying that some rain was coming in the next. So you have to do that quickly. But you do think quickly, you're not going to do that things right. So you have to decide what is more important, what is the priority thing to do. And one is save the core unit of the crime scene with some cover of some sort, but you can't do that for meters and meters and things like that. So you had to decide things to do. So having the training in a situation like that, the critical thinking already done, having that experience in virtual reality, in 3D, you learn these things because they become part of your personal experience, not something that you read and you forget because it's one of the many things that you read, but it's something that you experienced. So you can critical think better.
And like context switch back into the crime scene itself.
Yeah. And it's also assessment tool, and you got to think on a university level there's got to be certain, there's got to be a certain level of quality assurance.
It's not just fun.
Yeah, no, it's not. And they will be assessed on it, and the outcomes are being recorded. So every student, when they go in there, they're going to be called out if they step on a piece of evidence. Like, it's not hard to muck it up. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. It is a serious assessment.
They'll have to put the gloves on and
absolutely.
the thing in the bag.
Yeah. You're not stepping on the blood samples and stuff like that, which, happens.
Yeah.
And things can get recorded at the same time. So the students say, no, I actually did that. And you say, well, let's like a CCTV of what you did at the crime scene, because it can be recorded. So, and using all the senses is way better than using just reading sense. So the eyes, and will give you the memory that will open up possibility and critical thinking later on.
It's like they say that if you're trying to remember something and then you walk through a door, your brain context switches and you can lose it. That's why often you walk into a room and you go, why am I here? Yeah. And it's the same with virtual reality. So if you're back into that crime scene context, your brain is thinking, okay, and if it's a real one, you were there, like you're your thinking in that space?
So we were thinking, just to add more to the opportunity, you probably have heard about cadaver dogs that are helping the police to find missing people, corpses, and things like that. Now, when you train cadaver dogs, you normally use pieces of humans. That can be teeth or can be blood or something, but you can also buy the scent made chemically. This
dead body
like
scent.
So imagine doing the crime scene investigation on a dead body that is highly decomposed. It is only in virtual reality.
Yeah.
But while the student is wearing all of the goggles and things and doesn't know what's going on, you go there with a little scent under the nose.
Smell-o-vision.
So you add in one more sense.
Yeah.
And it's great because then next time they go home and say, and they bought some meat and they forgot on the bench. Say, oh my God, this is that body is my last shopping.
That's gross.
You get students actually wanting to learn.
Yeah, and what we had to provide to the students is a virtual reality that is as real as possible. So, for example, in our scenario, we have bloodstain. So there will be a very important core of the investigation about bloodstain pattern analysis. So the famous BPA. Now, normally you don't have these kind of things in the Unity shopping list.
No, it's not in the asset store.
It's not in the asset. You can have little red spots, but the red spots are not exactly bloodstain, because the bloodstain, they actually have a structure, a shape that depends on the velocity, the weapon, the size of the culprit, the size of the victim, how big they are, in which position they are, and things. So what we did, we went to the police. We went to the Western Australian police, who hosted us for a day, and we simulated what we wanted to do in the same space that we created in the house. And we had blood. We had
use their
blood
lab.
patterns.
You're in their lab.
Yeah, we used their lab,
Simulating.
and we recreated everything. We took the pictures of the different blood stain one by one, the size, the shape, the position, and everything. So everything the students will see is actually what is going to happen. So they can make the measurements. They can use the basic trigonometry, because BPI is no more than trigonometry.
Yeah.
To go back and make the story.
There's been a huge boost in cooperative virtual reality games lately. The Phasmophobia is the biggest one, where you actually have a team that enter a house and investigate ghosts in this case. But it's just become gangbusters. And I think there's actually a huge hunger for people to play games together in virtual reality. And that's actually really cool, which is where this kind of stuff comes in. Which is what I wanted to ask you about. You said in the FBI training stuff, you had like different roles. You had photographers and other. So is this kind of like a multiplayer thing we're looking at here, where we have multiple students in one
teams?
Yeah.
So the plan was to develop that as a possibility for a team to get in at least two people, because what happens is that you don't have Sherlock Holmes at the scene. You don't have one person with the trench and the magnifying lens. They arrive and solve the situation. You have a team. You have a team leader, you have a photographer, you have a sketcher, you have blah blah blah, depending on the situation, the budget, and the scene and things. And now with the COVID, you have less and less people going together at the same time at the scene, because you have to have space between people. The crime scene can be in a huge, large environment, or can be in a small little car. So it's everything is different. Again, it was a matter of budget, having something that starts simple. So we started with a single person coming in and doing basically what the person wants. That can be the person that does the photography, or does the BPA, or just the walk through everything. Okay, you do the walk through, then you take the pictures, and then you look around other things, and then you look after the bloodstain pattern analysis and things. But yeah, definitely this was something in the books. Also because you learn how to work in a team, and it's extremely important in a training in a crime scene investigation and law enforcement, and in general too.
Is that because it's very time sensitive when you're at the scene? Yeah,
but also because some things need to be done in two people. Like if I'm picking up something from somewhere, like I take away an evidence, there must be someone that videotapes that, or takes a photography what happens before and after. I have only two hands. So In some situation, you have people going with the GoPro or whatever,
right. Yeah.
similar things. It depends again on the budget of the police group. There can be.
But I guess ultimately the purpose is to go in there, collect all the evidence and capture everything.
Yes, because everything can be used against the police department in the moment of the trial.
So this project is that how you measure, even when it's further along development, is that how you're going to measure a student's score? Like how well they've captured what they need, and then later will there be a list of evidence, photos you've taken, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we can use that. We can use that as a scenario. We propose you a scenario. What would you do? And okay, show me what you do. We can also have things that pop up as questionnaire during the experience itself. Imagine that we open the kit and there are different type of powder for fingerprints. Okay, you had 10 different powders for different surfaces, different colors, different shapes, and which one is the best one?
Yeah,
justify me this answer. But when you make the reality, you don't want to waste time making the little label on the powder thing. You just put A, B, C, D, and then you had the pop-up thing to say A is this, B is that, blah, blah, blah. So you can use that. I also think
there'll be a lot of value in being able to, like a debrief. You can see who walked where in a way to optimize the session that they're in.
The assessment.
Yeah, well, just think that the actual crime scenes would only be one scenario. So what they would do is they would go into the crime scene, and they can do that in VR or 2D. And the idea is that you go back to your office in the police department, and you literally have a desk, and you lay out all of your stuff. You start correlating all that data. Then if there's some samples, you're going to send that to a lab. So they're going to go into a lab.
Yeah,
they can start, getting the concept of how those other operations work, which is going to help their decision making in the beginning, because then they're going to know how to preserve certain samples and get an appreciation. Although, you know what I'm saying? So I can't imagine that a forensic investigator is not going to be armed with all of those tools, but having that knowledge of the process and going into the lab and playing around with that stuff.
So what's the future like? So you got this awesome idea, you got buy-in, start building a team. What's happening next?
Only knows.
You got big plans, I'm sure.
We're working on the second version of a prototype. We're working on some extra tools like fingerprinting and blue light stuff, technology that's going in that. And then we've got to work out, we're investigating a business model that's going to get us over the line and get us to a better and bigger stage.
Have you thought about crowdfunding or Patreon funding?
Green light?
I've been down the crowdfunding before. That's a tough nut to crack. I think we're better off pursuing getting something to a good enough level that we can start approaching capital funds, that sort of area first. I would leave crowdfunding to very last option, but try and go for the jugular straight away, because I think that the product's definitely good enough for them.
I mean, just the concept.
There must be interest
is
from
awesome.
There must be interest from government or law enforcement as well.
Yeah, there are some issues with law enforcement have a limited budget, and when it comes to education things, they have specific requirements. We were discussing with the police in Singapore actually about that, but these days they had a lot to do with COVID, so the funds went more for certain things rather than others. For the Australian government, we were looking after the linkage grant, that is linkage between the industry and the government, and the industry can be the university as well, but unfortunately there are some limitations regarding type of project that they can support. Like at least the last time that we had a look was no education, no virtual, no computer-based stuff or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was like
and government funding is a double-edged sword as well. That's probably the last very large
compliance
we will
requirements.
Keep digging and because every year they change the rules and things, and we're lucky because at Murdoch we have a research office that can help us out with some of these digging for funds. But definitely we will look having a bigger project that we can showcase, and the fact that we had some accolades like the 40 under 40 and the WITWA and something more, well, it's kind of a little tick in the box that not just us, blowing our own trumpet and say we are doing something good because somebody else, a huge society, is thinking that we are doing something good.
Oh no, it's cool, and I'm coming at it more from a gaming perspective, and I want to play it. Yeah, and I don't actually want to play many games, so it's actually.
Yeah, and if it can be a full narrative weaved into this, either a career mode style or just investigating famous things, which is what you said about.
Yeah, I if you can tap into that serial killer market,
it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah.
Everyone wants to see it for reals.
Yeah, well, everyone thinks that there's, I don't know how familiar you are with Reddit, but there's whole subreddits where they try and solve cold case serial killing cases. Yeah. I mean, they're massive. If
crime nerds.
When you can tap into that market, it's a solid market.
The support is there, and the hunger is there for this kind of stuff. So I think it's a bright future.
Yeah, if there's anyone listening who has the appetite for video game investment, I think this idea is a winner.
And the unis pay a lot of money for their licenses, unlike
if we look at the education side,
you look at the educational training business model, it's a little bit different to the retail. But if you can do both, then that's going to be great for any investor.
Have you spoken with the intelligence investigation agencies in the United States?
Not really, because a lot of the government agencies, again, they're not interested in funding projects per se. They'd be happy to buy a license and use the software, and also when we get it to a certain level, we can tailor it for different governments because the laws change, and the forensics, I guess,
methodologies change.
And also the type of crimes are different. And the scenario is different. So there is no point to have whatever scenario with a type of drug that is not in that country for another country, or to follow the law, the type of crimes and things. It has to be catered and tailored for the country.
Of course. And, that must be a primary market for you then, the United States.
Yeah, I think it's crimes everywhere. So it's a global, a really big global market. It's just finding the right investors at this point in time.
On that topic of market, actually, I find that is the scope of this project actually limited to education and learning, or is it something that industry can use and actually use to capture a scene and kind of run through it again and again?
Well, absolutely. That's something that...
Oh, you mean sorry, Jeff, you mean actually... So criminal investigators themselves could use it as a replay tool.
So there's replay. Wow. So there's a crime, and you go in there. You basically get that 360 video that you mentioned, the 360 cameras, run around, capture everything, rebuild it, and then look at it again later. Because you said you can only go once, now you can go again.
Yeah, they do something like that, especially when it comes to car crash dynamics and forensic engineering, how the body ended up to be there, if the train passed that way, which position was before, was already on the train rail or was somewhere else, or was in which position, was already dead or not.
Insurance companies would love to know that too.
So they do that for car crash and any kind of crash analysis. For other crimes, you also had to consider that the investigation itself has a cost, and the cost is supported by the government or by the lawyer of the defense, if the family of the the suspect has the budget to do so. So in theory, if we have a limited budget, I would say yes. But sometimes, I tell you, to be honest, sometimes the public prosecution don't have the time, don't have the money to allow you to do certain analyses that are very basic, like forensic entomology analysis, the facial reconstruction. So they want the basic things done just to be sure. But then if you want to go a little bit more out of the box, kind of fancy, that has a cost.
That's a great point. There's a customer here.
So plug-in.
Someone has to pay
you
for
sell them a plug-in that gives them edit capabilities, like an editor, and they can go to town on it.
I
It's
just assumed it
another
was
add-on.
like public
That's what
funded
it costs.
investigations.
You see
money.
all of these movies. In all of these movies,
Like
you
a
see
DLC. It's a DLC.
Yeah, absolutely.
in many movies, you see the helicopter going to the scene.
Yeah, that's
If-
right.
How many years?
I just assume that's the truth. So.
No, I mean they had the helicopters, but every trip by helicopter costs like $10,000 or €10,000.
And someone's got to pay for that.
Yes, so to me it happened like twice in 20 years.
Okay.
Because the place where the body was really impossible to get, and one was a bear on a mountain, because I work in wildlife forensics as well.
Okay.
So we had to recover the bear from the tip of the mountain, bring that to the facility. So not just the helicopter, but also the
You have like
bear.
a big sling to carry the...
Yeah, it was a big net with
It's
the
a
bear.
crazy story.
Yeah,
I'd love to
yeah.
hear more sometime.
So the investigation was pretty interesting, and ended up to be a firefly, the key of the analysis there. So yeah, you never know.
Really?
Yeah.
Thinking now. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
I left them speechless. Yes.
I was like, whoa.
I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure there'll be plenty of those if I go through all the
The
famous
simulations.
simulations. Before we continue this podcast, here's a message from our sponsor.
We believe that you can create art and beauty with technology. We think big. We move quietly. We are Ninja Software.
Just like you guys, I'm no different. I'm a storyteller, so I'm, always thinking about story. But having the opportunity to work with someone like Paola, who has those skills, is what makes this really important. Number one, it makes the product really important, but it gives it more legitimacy in terms of being a science-based product.
Yeah.
Because as storytellers, we'll just throw everything on the table, but it can't be done like that.
This has to be tight.
Your Legos have to work together. You can't just build whatever. And it's been great working with Paola because she's coming to the project with the real technical skills behind the scenes of how we do that. And it's easy enough to make a scene, it's no different to making a film scene, but having the skills and also the academic teaching and learning skills and also our education and design backgrounds, that's what makes this project unique. It's not just a game. It's more than a game.
It's a simulation.
It's a very serious tool that is going to hopefully train some of the best forensics students in the world in the future.
Yeah.
So, that for me, that's kind of the value add to our project. We're not just coming from a gaming side of things. Our strengths are coming from academia and training.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's great to work in a very multidisciplinary environment because everyone is bringing something to the table and something great to the table. So the final product is really something that you will never think about because by yourself you can only see one side of the story, but together you can make a full product that can really change the experience for many students at different levels. And I think, we had the future of teaching and learning in forensic science training in our hands, and the opportunity to give this to as many people as possible, to train them, to retrain them many times in an infinitive way. It's
exciting.
It's exciting. It's great opportunity for everyone. And working with Jeff, that is a brilliant educational technologist, is amazing. I mean, I come from a background of gaming that is maximum Pac-Man, so he put me in the simulator of flight and on a mountain, and I'm afraid of heights, so I don't want to work with you at the beginning. But you see,
Mount Everest.
It's going away from your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you stay in whatever you know. You can be brilliant. You can be a queen or a king in what you do. But it's only going out from your comfort zone that you can make some magic. And I believe that both of us we are doing some magic in this situation.
I agree. All right. Well, we always end our interviews with a whimsical question. I don't know how.
No, I'm good. I'm saying most people don't expect this.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a gotcha. I don't know how familiar you are with wrestling, But the wrestlers have their intro music. So when they come out for the start of the performance, the lights go down and the fog music starts, and their song plays that introduces their character to the audience. What is what is your intro music?
For us personally, or the project?
Personally, yeah. And then the project.
Project too, yeah.
So do personally, and then pick one for the project.
Well, something that probably
He's
kind
looking
of
at each
hit
other.
me up in the morning. Maybe it's a big day. It's like, this girl is on fire.
Perfect.
And it's,
This girl is on fire.
yeah, and it's funny because mine would be Eye of the Tiger.
Okay.
It's old school.
Nice. Yeah.
Because
Classic
Paola and
answer.
I, we actually do kick ass. We don't take prisoners,
Yep.
and we actually do kick ass in our own industry and world. So it's actually fun working with someone who's equally an ass kicker.
Nice. Perfect.
That's excellent.
So do we have a song for the project?
Oh, song for the project. Huh.
I like some of my favourite
Thriller. Love it.
compositions actually come from a film called Sunshine. It's the sci-fi.
Oh, I love
And
the
that
music
guy,
for Sunshine is fantastic.
Yeah, he's worked with that director on many films.
Yeah,
What's his name?
John Murphy.
John Murphy.
John
yeah,
Murphy.
What a
yeah,
legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sunshine, the major piece in Sunshine is Adagio in D minor.
Yeah.
Adagio in D
Oh,
minor.
mate,
It's fantastic.
It
yeah.
is, and it's
Brilliant.
yeah, I love it.
This is brilliant, and I will follow with interest.
Thank you for
Yeah.
having us. It was
Yeah.
great to chit chat with you about our project and our ideas and our world.
Absolutely.
I've got so many ideas for you too. So,
But don't kill anyone, just to make sure, okay?
We'll create scenes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
You've made it to the end of another episode of Tech Society. Thanks for listening.
In this month in tech history, March 9, 1999, US Vice President Al Gore said, "During my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the internet." This infamous statement was widely misquoted as, air quotes, "I invented the internet."
Make sure you hit us up on Twitter @Tech Society. Head over to the website, subscribe to the newsletter.